Oliver Pichuan Luthier here, and today I'm going to show you about cutting the braces that go inside of an ukulele and how I make those. So I have here the back of the ukulele that I'm working on right now, which is a koa ukulele, and I have ripped some little pieces of Sitka spruce that I'm going to have for the cross braces that go across this way. And then I also have some pieces of spruce that I've cut and I've glued in a particular fashion to be the pieces that go right down the center where the glue joint is. And being that this back is going to have a 12-foot radius, I have to make sure that these braces have that curve cut into the bottom of them. And I'm going to show you how I do that. And I'll also explain how I make these, because these aren't just little pieces of wood with a grain running up and down. These actually have the grain running across sideways like this, because it's much stronger that way in terms of bridging the joint that's in the center. So, and these are also little pieces that I've made. It's important when you cut your braces that you just don't do it willy-nilly out of any kind of wood that you have. I mean, many kinds of wood will work. Mahogany is often used. Different kinds of spruce are used. But it's important to notice that the grain on the pieces of wood that you're cutting is running vertically like this, not horizontally like that. So you want the grain of the piece that you're in to be running like this, so that the rings are perpendicular to the back or the top, as it may be. So yeah, you don't want it like this, because this has more flex in it this way, less flex this way. So we want the strength to be that way. So the first thing that I need to do is lay out where the braces are going to go. And to do that, I have made a template. This is a template that I use quite often. It's made out of plexiglass. And what I've done is I've marked on it all the braces. And the ones that are marked with the red stripes are the braces that go for the top, and the black are the braces that go for the back. And then I've drilled very small holes, little 16th inch holes, right in the corners of where all those braces go, so that when I lay it on my piece of work like this, like in this case the back, and I've also marked on the back a center line, so I know where the center is. And you can also see that I've cut as I mentioned before in a previous video, I've cut the back about 3/16 of an inch larger than it actually needs to be in order to not have any problems when I'm gluing, and I can trim that off easily after the box is glued together. So with those teeny little holes, I can come in with my pencil, and I put my pencil and I just make a little mark where those little holes are, and I do that on the whole back. And then once that is done, I can take my ruler and connect the dots, and then that gives me the location of where those are. So I've marked off on this where all those are, so we're going to be able to do that. Now, being that this is going to have a 12-foot radius, the back, which means that it's going to have like a belly on it, I have a radius board that I made, and on another video I'll show you how I made this radius board. You've probably noticed that my radius board is not made out of MDF. A lot of people use MDF for making a radius board. I don't like MDF. MDF is made with a lot of chemicals. It outgasses. Cutting into it releases dust that's toxic, and I just don't like it. So I made my radius board out of plywood, and it's nice and thick, so that there's no issue of it ever warping or anything. So this is going to have this flex. You can see how when I push down it kind of flexes, and this is going to be the way it is. It'll have that radius. And a 12-foot radius means that if we had a big ball that was 24 feet and had a 24-foot diameter or a 12-foot radius, this would be just a section of the surface of that sphere. So in order to cut these braces so that they have that curve, the way we're going to mark them is we're going to put this on the brace on there, and I think you can see if I hold it like this that there's a fair amount of space underneath here. It's touching there and there, so we want to cut that so that it fits right there. And the easiest way to do that is I take a pencil and I just lay the pencil down like this, and I can just mark it like this across there, off the just laying the pencil down flat on the radius board, and that gives us a mark that we can see here that is that curve. So that's the curve that we want to cut into this, and the way we do that is on the shooting board with a plane. So if we come over here, you can see that I've got a shooting board set up right here, and just a little jack plane in here. So I'm just going to take the plane and just plane down to the pencil line. So there it is on that end. And there it is on that other end. So that was pretty quick work. We've got that curve planed in there. It's not exactly perfect, but what we're going to do is we're going to bring it back over here, and we're going to take a piece of sandpaper, and this is a piece of sandpaper that I use for sanding the sides when I'm gluing it together, so that I can sand the back down. And I can just take this piece in here like this, and then just sand it down in here so that it has that curve. It doesn't matter where we have it in the radius dish, because the whole dish is going to be, so we can see, need to put a little more off the ends. It's not sanding in the middle yet. There it is. Okay. So we've got that piece there sanded down so that we've got a nice curve on here now. So we should be able to lay this in here like that, and you can see that it just fits perfectly right in that curve. So once we've done that, then I like to do a little preliminary. I'm going to just go through it with this one here so you can see quickly how I do this. I like to cut the little tapers on the ends just roughly at this point. I come back later when I'm tuning the back, and with a chisel I can tune it more. But I like to be able to at least cut these pieces in like this, so that and the reason for this is that when this is glued to the back like that, and then this little edge here is going to have to be trimmed so that it fits into a mortise that we're going to do in the linings. So I'm going to cut those really quickly, and I'll do that on the bandsaw. So just set this over here. I'm my own camera person, so it's kind of hard for me to know if the camera's pointed in the right direction. Now, once we've done that for this piece, I don't like the square profile of this. I want it to have a nice rounded shape to it. So I'm going to do that now. I put it here in my vise so that the top part is up like that. And then I take a nice sharp chisel and I come in and I just carve it down. This is another reason why these braces need to be quarter sawn too, because if they're flat sawn or plain sawn is often called, you know, then you get that grain that's going to make it a lot harder to work with. So we're just going to go in here and we're just going to trim this down and give it a nice profile. I'm reminded of a story. A lot of people tell me that I spend way too much time on the inside, the braces and the pieces inside of an instrument that people will hardly ever see. I mean, no one's going to see this brace really unless they take the instrument apart or have a mirror and a flashlight to look in there, because it's going to be way back in the lower bout, or the underside of the top for that matter. No one's going to see that unless they have a mirror and a lamp. But I'm reminded of a story of that when the Notre Dame Cathedral burnt some years ago and the workmen went in to repair it, they found that areas of the walls, the insides of the walls, because they had cut stone on the outside and the inside, and then in between the two layers of stone, where usually they would put rubble or whatever, but the stones that were inside that were completely hidden were beautifully cut. And when they looked into it more, they found that there was documentation that the stonemasons at the time said that no one would ever see those stones, but they knew they were there in God's eyes, and they needed to be right. So here we have this brace, and I'm just going to sand it a little bit here. And let's see, yeah, it's looking okay. So just and then over the top, I just kind of round it. So we have a nice rounded top on this. So the top portion of this brace which is away from the back, is going to be thinner than the portion that's against the back. That way we avoid extra weight. And this quarter sawn spruce is actually quite strong. So I just like to make sure I take pride in my instruments, and I've seen so many instruments, even pretty high-end instruments, that the braces inside still had saw marks on them, and you'll never find that on anything that I make. So that was 100 grit, this is 220 grit. So this is how I make the braces. So this brace is ready now, would be ready to be glued in to the top. And I'll do the same with all the other braces. As I mentioned before, I was going to tell you about how I made these. So I take a piece of spruce, like this is a piece of Sitka spruce here, and you can see from the ingrain that it's a quarter sawn piece. You can see all the rings going perpendicular to the flat of the board, which means that we would want our brace orientation to be like this, not like that, but like this. So I take a couple of pieces of these and glue them together. And then once that's done, when I have those, then I have a piece that's that wide. I rip it across this way into thin strips. And those thin strips end up being like this. You can actually see the glue line in there from where a piece would be like that. And then, so the grain on these pieces is going across this way. And these little pieces are 1/16 of an inch thick and 5/8 of an inch wide. And they're the ones that will go down the center. So I've done all the braces for the top already, which I want to show you. So here's the top. And you can see the braces are in here. And I haven't glued them in yet. They're just sitting there. And so these are flat on the bottom. They don't have the radius curve in them because the top is flat, and they're all rounded. They're all rounded over and sanded to 220 grit, as the inside of the top is also sanded. So this is a fan brace pattern that I use on my mezzo tenors, which has a wider lower bout, so it has 5 braces down here instead of the normal 3 which a tenor would have. And also the bridge brace is ebony, and it's a 1/16 of an inch thick and 1.25 inches wide. And these braces are actually cut so that they fit over the bridge brace. And being that they're at an angle, of course, that cut also has to be cut at an angle. And it's really just cut so that it fits tight down on there, so that when this is glued in place, it's actually glued really nice and tight to that brace as well. And that's for superior sound. So these pieces, these 3 pieces that are here, all have that relief in them, so that they fit, as you can see, over the bridge brace. So these I'm going to glue together. I'm going to glue all this together, and I'll show you how I glue it in another video. But anyway, this gives you an idea of how I lay out and how I cut the braces that go inside of an ukulele. The top on this is pretty thin. It's just under 2 millimeters. So when I have a top that's that thin, I like to put little braces up here that are on the side of the sound hole as well. So, and it will have the block here. The heel block would go right here, and the tail block is going to go down here, that are going to connect the sides. And so that'll be another video about how I do all of that. But anyway, I hope you found this interesting about the braces and how I make them. And then you can see that when we put all this together, you know, and we take our radius dish, because when we glue the braces onto the back, we'll glue them onto the back while it's sitting in the radius dish, so that when we in our go box, we'll have pieces coming down, pressing these into place, and this piece right here will just be like that. Yeah, see, and it's got the curve in it. It'll fit that, and this will hold the curve. So I just have to do the same to these other 2 braces, and then I'll cut these pieces so that they actually fit in between, on both ends there, and in between these 2. These don't get notched over them because we want them as strong as possible to hold that radius. If this has been useful to you and you enjoyed it, give it a like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time.